So for those of you who asked, here is the saga of what happened with my book that I wrote about my time in jail. I called it The Ins and the Outs, and I was quite proud of it. And I would say I was 97% of the way through with writing it in 2022. And it had been a big struggle to write it. I wrote it while I was in the homeless shelter on the phone that a friend from church had bought me. And that was the only thing that I had to type on. And I didn't have a computer. Then I got an old computer that was falling apart and I had to hold it together with duct tape. But I was excited because I finally had a computer to type on. So I typed on it and I got the manuscript pretty much finished. And I was excited to share my words with the world. And I was living in a little cabin in Stanwood, Michigan. And I was a big part of the writing community on Twitter, trying to network and communicate with other writers and with agents and with other people who could help me promote my book. And I met a woman named Kristen. Well, that's what she said her name was. And she said that she was a writer herself and that she had experience with editing books, so she offered to come and help me edit my book and get it ready for publication. And she wanted to meet me because she thought my story was very compelling and she wanted to meet the person who had gone through all of these things. So she came to meet me at my cabin and we hung out for an afternoon and she seemed really nice. I get into trouble because I fall fast and hard, so I will admit to you that I was smitten. And she said she was too. She was like, hello, I have a crush on you, and you're beautiful, and you are such a beautiful soul, and the words you write are beautiful. And the person I'm with currently, who is my partner right now, snagged me by telling me that my words were beautiful and that anything I wrote would be beautiful because I'm beautiful. So it's very easy to find a way to my heart. Just compliment my writing. So I had a relationship with her for about 6 months. How long was I in the cabin? 5 months? It seems bad that I don't remember. Wait until you get old. It wasn't 7 months. No, it wasn't 7 months. It was 5 months. Because that was June, July, August, September, October. Yep, it was 5 months. Okay, so it was 5 months that she and I had a relationship. And she helped me edit my book. And she helped me get it publication ready. And she helped me create a cover image for the book to help market it. And we were talking about what we were going to do after it was published, and it was a love story for the ages, except that it wasn't, because I had to stay in Michigan because this where my church is and they are my family, and they have supported me through everything in life, and I wasn't willing to just move away from them and move to Indiana with someone that I had just met. And she wasn't willing to move to Michigan, which makes sense. And it's crazy that we were talking about moving in together when we were only together for a few months. But people can explain to you that this happens sometimes when women get together. It's known. The joke is, what does a lesbian bring to the second date? A U-Haul. Because, yeah. So, that's what I brought to my second date, a U-Haul. And I am guilty of U-Hauling. So, I hung out with her, and we built this imaginary relationship, I guess you could say, as I have learned that it was. And eventually, it kind of fizzled, and she stopped talking to me, and I didn't know. I'm not very good in situations like this. I didn't know how to continue talking to her, so I sent her messages on Twitter, which is how we had met. And I sent her texts and didn't get responses. So I figured something was going on and she had lost interest. But I didn't really want to tickle the bear, so to speak. And I had a lot going on in my life at that time because I had a voucher that was going to expire that was going to pay for me to move into a real apartment, so I wouldn't be living in a cabin with one room that is smaller than the living room in the apartment where I live now. So I had a chance to make a better life in a real town, not out in the boonies of Stanwood, where even Dial-A-Ride won't come with their buses to deliver me. And I was calling apartments and trying to speak with landlords and get someone to accept my voucher so that I could have a place to live. And I was basically harassing the people at Ryan Creek Apartments because I really wanted to live here. And I managed to get on the waiting list, and I called them every week. Just wanted to remind you that I'm still interested. So this is going on while I'm trying to polish up my book, and the book kind of went on the back burner, I'll admit it. And I tried to do some things to improve my life, like I tried to get some jobs, even though I was disabled, and I tried to work in a factory. I worked at Big Rapids Products for one day, and I ended up in the ER by the end of the day because I was in so much pain that I couldn't stand up straight or control my bowels. It was a fun experience. And my friend Paul, who rushed me to the ER afterwards, can tell you all about it. I tried working at Original Footwear, and I made it through 2 days at Original Footwear before I ended up in the ER. But the upshot of that is I can't work in factories. So we discovered that, and we discovered that I perhaps should have waited until I could get a better computer than one that was held together with duct tape, because the computer crashed with my first draft of my book on it. But I wasn't worried about it because I had it saved still on Google Drive in a bunch of different first draft, second draft, third draft, up through 48th draft. You get the drift. And Kristen had it saved too, so I wasn't worried about it. Well, around December, I actually got into this apartment in Ryan Creek, and I was packing all my stuff, getting ready to move, and I got a windfall. A friend gave me some money and told me to buy a laptop. So I bought a laptop, and I finally had a real laptop that wasn't held together with duct tape, that wasn't going to crash for no reason, so I could work on my book. So I logged in and tried to download it off of Google Drive, and there was nothing but a little note there that said this file has been deleted by the user. And I was like, what? I didn't delete this file. So I went to the other drafts. This file has been deleted by user, deleted by user, deleted by user. And then I was confused, so I texted Kristen, and that text bounced back to me saying that this user doesn't exist or no longer accepts these messages. And I tried to send her a message on Twitter, and she didn't respond. And then I started to panic a little bit, and I started to ask people if there was any way that we could recover files if they had been deleted. And they said, well, why did you delete them? I didn't delete them. Well, why did you let someone have access to them? Because I'm stupid. Can we just get over that fact and work on what we're dealing with now, because I can't go back in time and not let that person have access to these files? And honestly, she had access to everything because we were working on it together. She had my password. She had my password to my email. She had my password to... She didn't have my password to my bank. I wasn't that stupid. But she had my password to my email. She had my password to my Netflix. She had my password... Poor, sweet, stupid little Eileen. And I finally got a hold of her. I finally managed to track her down through 3 Twitter accounts that she had been through and discarded. And I got a hold of her, and I got a hold of her on video chat, and so I could verify that it was her. And she said, I didn't think you were interested in the book anymore. And I said, what are you talking about? That's my book. I put blood, sweat, and tears into that. I was interested in it. I just didn't have a computer, so I couldn't work on it. And she said, well, you know how I can tell you weren't interested in it? Because I deleted that file back in October, and you didn't try to retrieve it until December. That tells me that you weren't interested. I said, excuse me, those were my words, and that was my work. I was interested in that, and I demand that you give it back. And she said, you can demand whatever you want, but you can't get that back. And besides, it was trash anyway. It was never going to go to a publisher. You didn't have the drive to take it to a publisher, so we know that you weren't going to really do that. You have no follow-through. You would never have done anything with that manuscript, so nothing that you're saying right now is valid. And I'm crying and trying to freak out and trying to get her to give me back my manuscript or give me access to my words, but she's deleted them and she's cleaned them off her computer and she doesn't have them and they're gone. All of the files are deleted off Google Drive because she had my Google Drive password and access to that. And that was where I had saved them, because the files that were saved onto a computer were saved onto my computer, which was corrupted and held together with duct tape, and it was, yeah. I ended up having a friend try to recover the files off of that computer, and he said he didn't know what I did to it, but he'd never seen a computer that screwed up before, and he didn't know where to go to even begin to try and retrieve anything, so I couldn't get my book off of that, couldn't get it off of Google, because she had deleted all of the files, and all I had left were all of my notes that I had taken, and all of the cartoons that I drew, while I was in jail, and the notes that I took while I was in jail are written on napkins and little scraps of paper and anything that I could find, because paper was anything that you could find when you were in jail. I didn't have the money to buy paper from commissary when I first got into jail, so I wrote on napkins and paper towel and anything that I could get. So those were my notes. That's what I had. I didn't have a real manuscript still. So I had to retype those notes from scratch, and everything else that I had was lost. So that was a big blow to me. I've typed it up again, and I've got about 48% of what I had, and I don't know if I have the heart to go through and type it all again. And I mean, I think it's better now than it was before because of all these experiences that I've gone through, but it's been pretty harsh having this happen and losing my manuscript in this way to such a stupid reason. And that is my story of how Eileen was dropped on the head repeatedly as a baby and thought it would be a good idea to fall in love and lose all of her work that she worked so hard on for a year just because she thought she was in love. And that is my second installment of the Gabbing About God video series. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please subscribe to my channel. Please leave comments. And please be safe and have a blessed day. Thank you for watching my video, and I love you all. Thank you for listening.